Alright, we are out spreading fertilizer on Bermuda fields. You see, this is one of the 16 acres of Bermuda that we baled somewhat recently. It's greening up pretty good, even though it's been dry. We have had some moisture recently. Not a lot, but a little bit. So there's a little bit of moisture in the ground. And there's more rain in the forecast, so we are going to spread fertilizer. So I'm going to walk through a little bit how we spread our fertilizer. We generally do it ourselves with a fertilizer buggy that you pull with the tractor. The PTO runs the spinner on the fertilizer buggy, which spreads it out. We will use our S-Lite GPS to guide us in a straight line. This fertilizer buggy spreads a 50-foot pattern, but we will actually only be going every 25 feet. And so because of that, we split our rate in half that we're going to apply, and we go every 25 feet, which essentially double spreads it, which then gets you to your regular rate that you're wanting to apply. Now the reason we do that is because sometimes these spreaders don't work the best. Sometimes they don't spread real nice and even, and you'll kind of get stripes through the field where this stripe got a lot of fertilizer and it's real green, and then right next to it didn't get as much fertilizer, and it'll kind of be shorter and yellower, and it'll be striped throughout the field. I don't know if it's just these type of spreaders that we rent from the co-op or what, but it tends to happen a lot. And you can minimize that by cutting your rate in half and double spreading. And so that's what we tend to do. It takes, you know, twice as long to do it because you're going every 25 feet instead of every 50 feet. But you get a more even spread of fertilizer, and your yield reflects that. So we're going to set this GPS up here in just a second, but let's go walk around the fertilizer buggy. So we've got our buggy hooked up to the 7130 John Deere. This is a pretty big fertilizer buggy. Holds 6 tons of fertilizer, or 12,000 pounds. And we actually maxed that out. We put 12,000 pounds in it because I had 35 acres of Bermuda and 15 acres of crabgrass and a little bit of pasture with Bermuda in it that I want to fertilize. So we had 12,000 pounds of urea on this fertilizer buggy, which is just straight nitrogen, nothing else. It does have a coating on it which turns it blue, called Nutrisphere. It helps keep the nitrogen on the ground till it can get rained on and put in the soil. So let's look at this fertilizer buggy a little closer. So this buggy has a hopper that holds the fertilizer. Inside that hopper is a chain. That chain runs from the front to the back, and it actually pulls the fertilizer out from the hopper. From the chain, it drops down onto the spinner, which is driven via the PTO of the tractor. The tractor runs at 540 RPM. This spinner is what spreads out the fertilizer and gives you that 50-foot swath. Now the chain is run via a chain drive and this tire. This tire you see is on an arm which is connected to a hydraulic cylinder, which is hooked up to the hydraulics on the tractor. From inside the cab, I can lift this arm up and down, which will put that tire on the buggy's tire, and that runs the chain. So I can have the spinner running all the time, and I can start and stop the chain from inside the cab. The purpose for that is to reduce overlap of fertilizer or double fertilizing. So say I fertilized the ends first, went around the outside, and then I started going back and forth. I can shut it off when I get to the end where it's already fertilized, turn around, and then turn it back on, rather than turning the corner and putting fertilizer on top of what I'd already fertilized, which is just a waste of money. So that's a really nice feature of these. As well as this one has a tarp, which is really nice to keep it from getting rained on, keep the sun off of it. So that's kind of the basics of how a fertilizer buggy works. It will, since the chain is run off this tire and off this gear drive, the chain speeds up and slows down with the tractor speed. And so it'll always put on the same rate no matter what speed you're going to run. This handle down to this slide gate with those numbers on it, you can raise it up and down, and that changes the amount of fertilizer that comes out. And depending on what you set it at will change what your rate is per acre. So this urea weighs 48 pounds, which is almost 50. Like I said, we're split rating it, so we're putting on 217 pounds to the acre. So I want a rate on here that's 108 or so. It's in low range, which is the top number. So you can see here 2.5 inches is 124. I need just under that. So I've set it at 2 1/4, which should be pretty close to that 108, 110 pounds to the acre, which double spraying it makes it 200, 220, which is what we're looking at. All right, well, we've got 16 acres here to do. Let's jump in the tractor and get that GPS set up. All right, well, we got to turn the GPS on. It's got to come up. See if we can see it. It's got to warm up and it's got to track satellites. So this GPS bases your position off of satellites, and so it has to obtain satellite coverage, and it usually will run around 10 to 12 satellites. I think once it gets to 9 or 10 it'll be ready to go. But we have it set up on 25-foot swath widths, so that's what we want. When it's ready to go here in a second, it's got 8 satellites now. Yeah, see, it won't let me start the guidance until it has fully warmed up. All right, it says that we are ready. Lights are green. It's actually only got, it's only showing that it's got 7 satellites. Huh. All right, so we want to do a straight A-B guidance. So this is just a straight lines back and forth. We don't want to do contours, which would go on curves. So we'll push the straight A-B guidance. It'll ask if we want to use a previous line, which we don't. So we'll go down to set a new A-B point, push enter. It'll ask me to input a point, or your first point. We'll push that. Then we'll drive to the other end of the field, push enter for our B point, and that will create a line between A and B, and we can start going every 25 feet. So let's get this thing started. First thing we got to do is we got to start the PTO. Starts the shaft spinning. Like I said, I can turn the chain on and off from inside the tractor with this hydraulic. Right now I've got it up, so it won't start until I start driving, but we'll go ahead and put that arm down so it'll start when we start here. We got to run the tractor RPM up to 540 RPM. Alright, we've already pushed our A point, so we can get started. We'll drive to the other end of the field here and push enter for our second point. You can see the chain running. That'll be drawing fertilizer out of the hopper into the spinner. Alright, let's push B, slow the tractor down. And the GPS is running. We are 25 feet over from our first pass and running in a straight line. It's kind of rough riding. I'm doing about 9 miles per hour. But we'll get her spread.